So what is the real cause of learning problems? Well, it's actually one thing, and this is the loss of integrated brain function. Now, the concept of how the brain processes information has changed dramatically in the last couple of decades. It used to be thought that they looked for, where do you do this in the brain? Where do you do that in the brain? Oh, this is the part that does this. We now know that's not true. We know that almost every single function you do has a brainstem component, has a limbic component, this is the more social ancient brain component. It has a neocortical component. That's the cortex, that's the outside. That's the part you see here. When you look at it, that is the cortex. And so, so this is where, So this is where we're conscious. This is the part only up here on the surface, that little thin part of the surface, are we conscious. All the parts below are for integrated pathways and to do deeper processing that is way outside our consciousness, which is good, because we had to try to do everything consciously. We would have a heck of a time trying to do anything, like even scratch your ear. So it's a good thing most of it is subconscious. But that means, what does our cortex do is it directs activities, it initiates activities. But even a lot of the process in the cortex is subconscious. So that means when we think things, this is an end result of a higher processing. And indeed, there are certain parts of the brain that activate certain types of thinking. So I want to think linearly and logically, I'm going to activate components over here in my left side of my brain. If I'm going to think visual spatially and globally, I'm going to activate things in the right side of my cortex and my frontal cortex. That's really the frontal cortex here and the frontal cortex there. All of this back here is largely memories and subconscious processing. Okay, so there's the associational, these are called the associational cortices for the where you actually think, but this is what stores the data that you think with and that you retrieve to think about, right? And so, but to do this, we have these functions out here, but they need to be linked to other functions at the limbic level, the brainstem level, between the hemispheres. And as a matter of fact, there's a major structure called the corpus callosum. So just look at my little brain here, and below that yellow structure, this white structure here, that's right there, goes all the way from the front to the back, is a huge, massive sheet of fibers that are called the interhemispheric fibers. They go from this side to the exact same place on the other side, and back to the other side, right? And so that structure then is one of the major integrated pathways in the brain, 200 to 800 million neurofibers. And so this is a really massive connection. Now there are other commissures between much smaller structures in the brain, like the hippocampal commissure, the amygdala commissure, the posterior commissure. But this is the major interconnection. When we say brain integration, these are the major pathways for the integration of the right and left processing. And so what happens in learning problems is some factor, some stressor we will call it, causes this function to shut down. It shuts down the flow across the corpus callosum and some of the other integrated pathways. When that pathway shuts down, you lose your ability to produce integrated thought. Many things we do need some logic, they need some visual spatial, and they need them to be connected or integrated together. If that integration fails in any particular place, you are going to lose function. And you're not going to be able to access that function because you don't have the integration you need to sustain that function. And so, of course, if it's in this place, it's this dysfunction. If it's that place, it's that dysfunction. So that's but the basis of all integrated, the basis of all brain integration is that there are these connections and they're operating. Any factor shutting them down is going to generate some type of learning problem.